When I first watched Gossip Girl, I thought Serena, the it girl, was the obvious favorite. But when I rewatched it as an adult, something flipped. Serena suddenly felt boring and unrealistic, and Blair, she became the entire show. This is called the Anne Hathaway syndrome. Basically, when a character is so flawless and likable, ironically people stop liking them. Because perfect is boring and definitely not relatable. This is where dark feminine characters work because they don't perform perfection. They show jealousy, ambition, desire, and strategy. The parts women are usually told to hide without being ashamed of wanting things. Psychologist Carl Jung was the one who figured this phenomenon when he proved that we gravitate towards fictional characters who act as reflections of the self. So today, we're breaking down which dark feminine character you're drawn to and what it secretly says about you. Maddie Perez. Okay, let's start off with Maddie from Euphoria because she's the hot topic right now with the season 3 trailer of Euphoria being out. If she's your favorite, that already says a lot. Maddie always acts like somebody pissed her off, and people love to reduce her to that. But what most people miss is that Maddie isn't angry for fun. She is angry because being loud is the only way she ever feels protected. In Euphoria, Maddie is in a toxic abusive relationship with Nate. Her emotions are constantly dismissed, twisted, or used against her. So, she learns to perform confidence. That's why she comes off aggressive, because for her, vulnerability has never been safe. If Maddie's your favorite, it usually means you relate to being judged for your reactions instead of what caused them. But on the flip side, you hate being seen as weak or vulnerable. You'd rather be called too much than powerless. You understand how confidence can be armor even when it's completely shattered underneath. But I'm actually super excited to see the character arc of Maddie in season 3 because so far, the consequences for her actions were all shielded because she was just another teenager. But now, with her being in the real world and her actions having real-life consequences, I see Maddie's character always being on edge, which eventually makes it very hard to trust people or let anything healthy in. That doesn't mean the Maddie energy is bad. If you see yourself in Maddie, growth doesn't mean dimming your fire to make other people comfortable. It means learning that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's power used selectively. Softness is actually extremely dangerous when it's intentional. You do this by putting it into building healthy boundaries instead of fighting, which will actually let people realize your worth more than anything. While Maddie was all about being heard and performative, Bellatrix from Harry Potter takes a sharp turn. Bellatrix Lestrange has emotions that have nowhere to go. But is she really just a crazy woman? Bellatrix didn't grow up differently from her sisters. They were brought up in the same house with the same atrocious pure-blood supremacist beliefs. Yet, Narcissa becomes a mother who will lie to Voldemort for her son, and Andromeda walks away entirely. Bellatrix doesn't, and that is important. Because Bellatrix's story shows what happens when all your passion, loyalty, and identity get poured into one place. She didn't even have children or a proper emotional connection with her husband. Her whole life revolved around the approval and validation she got from Voldemort, and that's totally unstable. Now, here's where this connects to you. If you relate to Bellatrix, chances are you're someone who feels deeply and commits fully. When you love, believe, or attach, it can take over your whole world. That's why Bellatrix feels dark feminine to you. You are raw, insanely loyal, and unapologetic. But just because you relate to her doesn't mean you should totally be her. Try spreading your power instead of surrendering it, because your intensity is not the problem. Where you pour it is. Maleficent. When we were kids, the story of Maleficent was basically she didn't get invited to a party, so she lost her mind and cursed a baby. Over. Disney really did her dirty in the animated movie. Even the meaning of Maleficent straight up means evil. But when we get to know her origin story, it's no more about the party. In that world, not being wanted means you are worthless, and Maleficent was not somebody you would risk your life to ignore. Yet, the point people miss is that she didn't actually turn dark because she was ignored. She turned dark because she was betrayed by Aurora's father, Stefan. She thought she had found the love of her life, and then he took away her wings and will to trust people with him. So of course, she changed. If Maleficent is your favorite, it's usually because you know exactly what it feels like to be soft once and lose something because of it. You weren't always cold-hearted. You became that way after trusting the wrong person. You learned the hard way that trusting people too much would cost you everything. You just need a good soul like Aurora to make you feel safe emotionally. Amy Dunne. There are so many characters that claim to have that dark energy within them, and then there's Amy Dunne from Gone Girl, who is just built different. Amy grows up being compared to a version of herself that doesn't even exist. Amazing Amy, a character her parents created and the world adored. And from the time she's a child, she measured against that impossible standard. That bar was so high that she was molded into thinking that love is something to be earned and performed rather than being genuinely experienced. That thought matters because everything Amy does later comes from that. When her marriage starts falling apart, more than feeling betrayed and cheated on, she's upset that Nick is no longer obsessed with her. She's all about maintaining the perfect wife image, and breaking that image makes her feel worthless. And instead of grieving it like a normal person, she panics because without that image, she doesn't know who she is. So she does what she's always done. She writes a diary. She becomes the victim that the world will believe. She doesn't care if her husband really loves her like before. Only thing that matters for her is the illusion of having a perfect life from the outside. Well, if you think Amy is your spirit animal, don't panic. You are probably not going to turn into a sociopath looking for a chance to fake your death and kill your ex. You relate to her because you are hyper aware of how women are expected to behave, and maybe part of you understands the fear underneath Amy. The terror of being seen as disposable once you stop performing perfect is real. So, I would say you don't have to be perfect to be worthy. Let go of the nice girl act and embrace who you actually are. Jennifer Check. Now, after Amy Dunne, who's painfully aware of how women are expected to behave? Let's talk about Jennifer Check, who is a complete 180. Jennifer's only wish is to be desired, not by one or a few, but endlessly. But here's the thing most people miss. Her desire doesn't come from insecurity or a need for validation. Jennifer knows her worth. She knows her looks are her currency, and she has no interest in hiding them or pretending she doesn't care. She doesn't want to control her power. She just wants more of it. The entire horror part of the movie revolves around this metaphor that her power isn't about control. It's about appetite. She doesn't manage or manipulate anyone. She just eats the attention that's already there. If Jennifer is your favorite, it usually means you don't have a problem being seen. You just have a problem being owned. You don't mind people admiring you for your looks. You use it to your advantage. You see the world for how it actually works. And honestly, you're probably very conventionally attractive. Or you carry yourself like you are. And that confidence is part of your power. But the shadow side of Jennifer is this. You believe your looks are the first thing people notice. And if you ever lost that, you're scared you'd lose the upper hand. That's where your balance comes in. Yes, your beauty is a power, but it's not your only one. There's more to you than how you look. And when you learn that, You stop relying on pretty privilege for survival and start using it as a bonus instead of your whole identity. Katherine Pierce. Now, if Jennifer is all about being wanted, Katherine Pierce is all about being free. Katherine doesn't care about running the room or being the prettiest girl in it. She just wants to make sure she never gets trapped by anyone or anything. That's her whole thing. In the show, Katherine survives because she refuses to let anyone have power over her. And honestly, that makes her one of the most interesting dark feminine characters ever written. Because the only thing Katherine wants is options. She wants to know she can leave, disappear, or switch sides whenever she wants. And that makes sense when you look at her story. Every time Katherine lost control of her life, it cost her everything. So, she learned young that freedom is more important than being loved. And if Katherine is your favorite, it usually means you prioritize your freedom and having fun over everything else. It doesn't matter if it even comes at a cost, and you don't care if people think you're selfish, because love feels like a trap, and the only thing that matters to you is not being controlled. But every archetype has a shadow side, and Katherine's is simple. When freedom becomes your whole personality, you stop letting people get close to you at all. You start believing love is a cage, not a home. And even when someone does care about you, it's easier to run than to stay. So, if Katherine is the one you see yourself, you need to learn that not everyone who wants you wants to own you. Some people actually want to meet you where you are, not trap you where you've been. Regina George. Regina has always been my favorite because out of all of them, she's the most strategic. She doesn't just survive the social hierarchy, she designs it. She's the queen bee not just in her head, but in everyone else's as well. And all that came from strategy. Picking Karen to be a part of the plastics because she's pretty and getting Caddy in because she knew that if she didn't, her throne was in danger. Regina watches how people move, what they care about, and what they fear, and then she quietly rearranges the room so she stays at the top. If you love Regina, it usually means you're not scared of the game, you don't waste time trying to fix a broken system, you learn how it works, and then you play it for your benefit. That is strategy. Your superpower is reading people, and you know how to make someone feel like they've just been hit by a bus. Not with force, but just a single sentence. And you use it everywhere. In family dynamics, in relationships, in friendships, and your work. You understand hierarchy instinctively. You know who sets the tone, who follows, who wants validation, and who can be moved like a chess piece. For you, everything is intentional. The way you speak, the jokes you make, who you stand next to. What information do you share and what do you withhold? It is not about manipulation. It's about staying safe, respected, and in control. That is how Regina survived, and that is how you move too. But there is a shadow side to this. When you live in strategy mode for too long, you start believing that controls equal safety. So you overanalyze, you micromanage, you refuse to let things unfold on their own because you would rather control every single move and be miserable than risk losing position. But what one needs to remember is that power is not always about holding the entire room by the throat. Sometimes you are still the queen even when you're not pulling every string. Putting it all together, when people say they like dark feminine characters, it is rarely about liking evil or cruelty. Most of these women weren't born cruel or detached. They became that way through pressure, betrayal, expectations, or being repeatedly misunderstood. So, if you find yourself drawn to characters like these, it often means you are someone who's learned to rely on yourself. Everyone reads darkness differently. So, now I'm curious. Which dark feminine character do you see yourself in, and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, you will love my Dark Feminine Energy playlist right here. So definitely check it out. I'll see you soon, loves. Bye-bye.